Okay, welcome to the 2021 Watershed Congress. Today is Tuesday, day 2 of our virtual Watershed Congress week. We're happy that you're joining us today. The Watershed Congress is organized by the Delaware Riverkeeper Network in collaboration with many other organizations. My name is Emma Brady, and I'm the Administrative Coordinator at the Delaware Riverkeeper Network, and I am also your moderator for this session, Nature Mindfulness in Your EE Programming and Daily Life. We are pleased to present our speaker for this session, Tara Muenz, a conservation ecologist and community educator, and the Assistant Director of Education at Stroud Water Research Center. Now I'm going to turn it over to Tara to begin.
Thank you so much, Emma and Robin, and so delighted to be here with everybody. This is a topic very near and dear to my heart that I've been probably following the circuit of for the past couple of decades and seeing it grow, just this idea of earth connections, mindfulness, and more. And we'll talk about this word mindfulness in just a moment, but I really encourage you to step into this time period. It might be right after lunch. So hopefully a nice type of break for you. But the concepts that I'm going to talk about today are definitely ones that you can bring into any aspect of your life, whether you have children, your own family, grandchildren, you are an educator in some shape or form, or just something simply to better your life and your relationship with the planet. And these have really helped me. I'm going through this week, which is just really intense, one of the most intense weeks, working 14-hour days and weekends and all kinds of things. But the techniques that I'm going to talk about today are what helped me get through those types of weeks in a not just getting through, but in experiencing and having joy and doing it. So I'll have a presentation here. Hopefully it'll be interactive. So please participate in the chat, and let me share my screen. All right, can you give me a thumbs up, Robin, that you can see it okay? Great, thank you. So I'd first like to take us into an experience, okay? Getting into the present moment. So if this is a little bit new for you, just step into it with ease and step by step. But mindfulness, again, can mean so many things. And for me, it's more than being fully present. It's a relationship with Mother Earth and feeling an appreciation for her. And one way that helps to really calm myself and to have a more beautiful day in my existence is to do what I take a pause on the planet, just a few minutes where I focus on my breath. That is a gift from nature, from the trees. And there's so many good things to breathing and actually reflecting on your breath, but also welcoming gratitude and giving gratitude to Mother Earth. And one technique about being mindful in nature is to actually acknowledge her in your life, giving gratitude and appreciation to her, and establishing a reciprocity. We take so much from the earth. Sometimes it's really good for us to take this moment, wherever it might be in your day, to thank her. So I'd like to welcome you and invite you into that experience right now. It can come from your heart, however you want to do, just in silence. If you want to close your eyes and really start to take some breaths through your nose, which is so important. Many of us don't breathe actually through our nose. And start to really welcome in this beautiful gift of life from the earth, from the trees and plants of the planet. And just start to breathe in, feel this nourishment from the planet, and breathe out. And then also, as you're doing this, I'm going to go through a few slides of just messages that I've received from Mother Earth over my life that may be supportive to you. And in this time that we're going to take right now, as you're breathing, maybe you want to put a few hands over the center of your heart. You can thank Mother Earth for whatever it is that you feel in your heart that you're grateful for. And so I invite you to do that with me. And again, we're going to go through just a few slides here, some messages from Mother Earth that she has wanted me to share with the planet. And I think Robin put my website in there so you can learn more about that too. I'm not going to say the words of these slides. I'm just going to pause with them and just go through them real gentle. So continue with your breath and take just a moment to give gratitude to Mother Earth for anything that you have in your heart. And I invite you to share anything in the chat if you'd like to about any of the phrases that may have resonated with you. And I can go through what some of them have meant and introduce myself a little bit too. But as was mentioned, I do work for Stroud Research Center. And in that life, I am the assistant director and get to work all over the planet. And in that time of my travels, though, too, a formal scientist, but I'm also an educator. But there's parts of me, too, that have been just going beyond those two things, educating and researching. But I always come back to my heart connection, my connection with Mother Earth, because that's what drove me to be where I am in this moment. And she really is my everything. She is my best friend, and I treat her like that. And I'll talk more about that in a minute, but I'm also a master teacher with the Tao Academy based out of Canada. It's an international organization. And I teach, reverent classes about being with the earth, soul communication classes to communicate with the earth and life here. And a lot of these messages have come from my heart, just in the moment of being with the earth, when I've taken some pauses to be in silence with her. And some of it's helped me because I've gone through times where I've been very upset, depressed of what I see going on in the planet. It's weighed me down so much. It's made me have a lot of fear, or I've let that happen to me. And so in my kind of uplifting out of all that and healing from that, so I could really do my good things on the planet, a lot of these messages came from Mother Earth. And one was about self-love. And that always comes in from you internally too, that you should always come from your own self-love, right? But the earth always loves you, and she may show it in different ways, but we get full-time nourishment. Our lives are constantly nourished by her. And that if that's not love, I don't know what is. She reminds me that there is still joy here with all the things that we see that may be challenging, stressful, destructive, sad, that there is still joy here, and to find that, and that will really rejuvenate and uplift you. And that we're meant to thrive, we're meant to be healthy and exist and have a beautiful, fruitful life. And to see the earth still as strong, she is a powerful force. And to see the rivers that we know may be polluted, to see them still as vibrant, healthy ecosystems and beings, and that's what they will turn into. And to love all of the earth, not just love the beautiful wild lands or places that look pristine and healthy, but to love those places that might be challenged, polluted, where there are uprisings. We need to love all of that. And that's including yourself. Love all of you, not just the parts that are fun and joyful, but all of who you are. And that we are one. We're not separate from the ant that crosses your path, from the air that floats by your nose and goes into your lungs. It's all part of you. All right, thank you. So an extension of this activity that you could do is actually I call Love Letter to the Earth. And on my website, I have a blog post about how to do this. And I've presented talks like this to the Pennsylvania Statewide Association of Environmental Educators, as well as Maryland. And I'm doing some talks for Drexel University. And this is one activity that I really love to do. And you can do this with anybody, anytime, anywhere. It's great at camps, is writing an actual love letter to Mother Earth. And I did this at the Maryland Environmental Ed Conference back right before COVID hit in 2020. And I had the participants seal up their love letter to the earth and give it to me with their address. And I said, I'll send this to you at just the right moment. And then about 4 weeks later, COVID started being on the rise, and all this panic and fear, exactly, all, so much stirring up. And I just got the message, this is the right time to send those letters. So I sent them right out. And these love letters also are just a beautiful way to express yourself. But they're also really love letters to yourself. And I don't know how many of us have even written a love letter to our own selves. So that might be a nice thing to do. And you don't just do it once, you can keep doing it. But Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Buddhist monk and teacher, he wrote a beautiful book called Love Letter to the Earth, where he brings some of his inspiration and light from the planet and really pours out his heart. It is so beautiful. If you haven't read that book. So even acknowledging Mother Earth and giving her gratitude before presentations, there's also something called a land acknowledgement, where you can acknowledge the Native peoples, the Native caretakers of the area in which you come from, where you live and exist. And here currently I'm in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, southeastern Pennsylvania. And I would like to acknowledge the traditional stewards of the land on which myself, the Stroud Center, are located. And I wish to pay my respects to their elders, past and present. And I extend that to all the Lenni Lenape peoples of today. And we're here in the Brandywine River Valley and watershed. And I thank this river, the Brandywine River, for its presence, for its inspiration, for its nurturing, and providing so much for my local community. So that's one way to be mindful too of your area and land. So how did I fall in love with Mother Earth? And I say that I'm a scientist, but I get to say these things, and I love it because there's more of an expansion happening now, I feel, in the formal research world, talking about these things now and letting that happen. And it started with me and nurturing from my ancestors. My mother, her father, all taught me about having an earth connection and establishing it on my own. And I was an only child as well, so that was helpful to me in some ways because I didn't have a lot of humans around me, but I would go out and play on a creek nearby in Ohio, where I grew up, on the Olentangy River. And that river was my best friend growing up. And I still, when I go back home, I go to that river and I say hello and I thank it. I put my fingers in the water and I try to support it even from a distance. There are river keepers trying to protect that river. I tear up still thinking about it because it was such a beautiful gift to have that river. My animal companions have been instrumental in me developing a relationship to the earth and a pause on the planet, which I'll talk about later. And all these things help me to express my purpose on the planet, share the love of and the heart of the earth, which is so important for people of all ages to know about. And again, it helps me express my purpose. I love to make films and just document the earth so that people can connect with it if they can't go in person, especially people that might be debilitated, or just like my grandmother who can't get out. I can share these videos with her so she can still get out in nature in a virtual way. But thinking about the title of this talk, Nature Mindfulness, I did attend a talk in Maryland at the conference, and there was a beautiful speaker there who talked about mindfulness, and she was a therapist and said there are 7 principles of mindfulness. And this is a huge bag of worms to open when you're talking about how to classify what mindfulness is, because it can be almost anything. It's almost like a a choose your own way, but she went over these, Dr. Cheryl Fisher, about it not being, about it being non-judgmental, how many of us are inner critics, but trying to hold that space of no judgment. Mindfulness brings in about the quality of patience, having a beginner's mind, trusting the self, and always not striving to be something, but being in that moment and accepting and then letting go. And there's so much more to this. And I'll talk about nature mindfulness in that next layer. But if you're interested, there is a Ohio Congressman, Tim Ryan, that wrote a book about mindfulness and how to practice it and the benefits of it. If you need any kind of more information about this and where it's going in our nation. But nature mindfulness to me is almost like a deeper next layer where we think about the earth first. And we don't always take from nature, but we are mindful of our relationship, and we are in relationship with the earth, and that there is this reciprocity, which I'll keep mentioning. And so my kind of model of nature mindfulness looks like this, and this is on my website. I call it the 3 A's, where there's awareness about your choices on the planet, how you interact with all beings of life, how you interact with yourself. And that may sound like a lot, but once you start getting in that rhythm, really opens your world to more compassion and receiving love and giving love. Also, there's appreciation. What you appreciate is said to appreciate. So what you give out, you also get back and receive. And so appreciation for the simple things on the planet are just so important. And simple is really, really good to simplify your life, whether it's physical things you have in your life, or mentally, emotionally, how many emails you have. Simplicity, I'll talk about that later too, is something that's a really good tactic to live more mindful on the planet. And then these 2 other A's help you take positive actions for the planet, which is kind of a good model for me when I'm teaching in environmental education. So let me get into some of the science about this and the benefits of nature. And I gave a similar presentation to teachers in the state of Delaware, and to help inform them of their choices of taking kids out in nature. And this was also a supportive presentation for the counselors there, the somatic emotional learning counselors, to try to incorporate more nature experiences or outdoor experiences. So, as a result of all this awareness that we know about benefits of nature connections, there's a lot going on here. And actually, this slide is out of place. Let me go to the next slide instead. Sorry about that. I knew it all right away. Apologize. We'll go with it. But we know that there are a lot of benefits about being in nature. And just because of that, a lot of families and people are getting outside, which is wonderful. And we know that there are benefits mentally and physically to our health, about how we learn and how we create. And there's much in the literature. So we know that because of this, there's actually in recent years a new nature movement that has emerged that includes traditional conservation and sustainability, but gives special attention to the right of every child to the benefits of nature. And again, all of its benefits. And this movement is based on a really big growing body of scientific evidence, most of it correlative, but some of it actually, because most of it, scientifically evidence-based, but some of it correlative, because research in this arena is really relatively new, but it's also overdue. But all points kind of to the same directions here. I mean, you can see that the terpenes, the phytoxides that are in wood and some pine trees especially are super uplifting, and also have natural killer cell enhancement abilities. And there's just a breadth of literature out there about the physiological, emotional, mental benefits of being outdoors and following the pulse of the earth, using our senses, breathing and moving. And it helps us to also be more mindful. So there's so much here. So we know there are a lot of benefits about being outdoors, but we also know there's a deficit of a human nature connection. And in his landmark work, Last Child in the Woods, Richard Louv was the first to really bring widespread attention to the alienation of children from the natural world and coined the term nature deficit disorder. And he outlined the benefits of a really strong nature connection, from boosting mental acuity and creativity to reducing obesity and depression, from promoting health and wellness to simply having fun, which many of us know about. And it wasn't just Richard Louv, but many therapists had noted an increasing number of children with problems atypical for their younger ages, from not tolerating wind in the face to poor balance and uncoordinated bodies to crying and getting easily upset in new situations, having a hard time focusing, overactivity, not paying attention, being forceful, and increased aggression, more anxiety, the list goes on and on. And they're getting in trouble more frequently. So an alarming number of children were and are presenting still these problems. So what can we do about it though? There is the world of the earth and getting kids in touch with the nature, taking a few moments of unstructured time. And that's what's so important, is having it unstructured. And from Dr. Cheryl Fisher, this is her book, Mindfulness and Nature-Based Therapeutic Techniques for Children. It's so great. I encourage you to check that out. Dr. Cheryl, she's a licensed clinical professional counselor, and she presented on all these international nature-based therapies and overall wellness and mental health. And I was, again, fortunate to attend one of her workshops in Maryland. And she says that some of the benefits of being out in nature are the following. So there's less sensory overload, and being in nature promotes less sensory overload and exposes children to a variety of tactile stimuli. So they get to touch and feel and smell and feel alive. And that's helpful and important for all of us too. While it also increases vestibular engagement. And vestibular is just kind of your balancing out. And so nature is also calming inherently. So because of the negative ions, the terpenes. And there's an example that children diagnosed with ADHD who are exposed to green spaces are more relaxed and focused. Being out in nature also improves our vision. Children who are predisposed to myopia are 3 times less likely to need glasses if they spend more than 14 hours a week outdoors. And that's from Ohio State University Center for Clinical Science. It also promotes children's ability to listen and can assist with awareness. Example, like listening to a bird chirping in the distance can help children differentiate their body and space. And again, the list goes on. So being out in nature offers an abundance, again, of tactile experience, even just going through wet puddles, mud slides, holding onto slippery critters, prickly pine cones, rocky sands, and lumpy pastures are all like great for the senses, and enhances children's sense of taste and smell. So movement, exploration, all good things. But I often get that question, how often or how much time do we need to spend out in nature to receive the benefits? And it's anywhere from 5 minutes to 5 hours. There's no recipe, but there's your secret recipe just for you. So you kind of need to gauge and see how much you need. Some days I need more than others, so I have to just be aware of that. But Dr. Cheryl Fisher, she recommends for children especially that need 4 to 6 hours of non-directed outdoor play a day for children. So that is a lot. And they maybe get like 15 minutes of recess. So it's not so much for them available. But moving on, these physical and mental benefits have an effect actually on learning, and it's been documented. And here is a study from by Kuo et al., professors at University of Illinois and Minnesota from 2019, who published this flowchart in a paper called "Do Experiences with Nature Promote Learning?" And it was published in Frontiers of Psychology. And the figure here, just to follow me, on the left, you have some kind of nature exposure where you get outside or you see nature from your window. And then here are the pathways to actually learning outcomes. So the learner from that nature exposure has benefits. They're able to concentrate, they're less stressed, they're more engaged. They may become quieter or calmer because of what's in that green box, what they experienced. And those learning outcomes they've documented are huge, where they have higher achievements in their grades, better reading, better proficiencies. Their personal development is also enhanced. So they may have better leadership skills, more patience to do that, better communication skills, and better stewardship skills for the environment. So if we want them to be better stewards of the environment, we better get them out in it. So that paper was really interesting to share. Out there in the world, there are several guides. They're great books, so many. I just don't want to put them all up here, but there is Richard's books. He's got tons of them. He's also got a new book down there in the far bottom right called Vitamin N, which has a ton of activities, 500 activities there. And the book 15 Minutes Outside also has lots of great activities just to get out. But Dr. Cheryl's book's right there in the center. And we're going to talk about ecotherapy and that stream in a minute. But a lot of groups are catching on to this. And if you're in the environmental education field, you already know that you're providing these outlets, but you may want to know exactly how can I promote them as such to be a benefit of nature, mindful of nature kind of angle. And a lot of these groups are doing this already. There are a lot of trainings out there too to help you with either mindfulness, and that can be from becoming more aligned with breath work or stretching like yoga, or something like, leadership and communication. But Garrison Institute is one place to go. They have a lot of great tools about mindfulness. Specifically to nature mindfulness, there are programs out there. The Association of Nature and Forest Therapy has a guide program, and so you can look into that. They also have really a wonderful area of all the publications that you can access on the benefits of nature. So if you need more publications to go to, that's a great site. And then the Earth Body Institute is run by clinical psychologists, professionals in the field of counseling, and they offer what's called their ecotherapy classes. And ecotherapy I'll talk about in just a minute. And this is what I'm enrolled in actually to become an ecotherapist. Nature ecotherapy is what you see here on the screen. It's helping facilitate this relationship, not just a connection, but an actual relationship with the planet so that it does have therapeutic benefits. But it's also not just about what we get, but also what can we give back to the planet. So it's a reciprocity that's really signified here and focused on in nature, in ecotherapy. And ecotherapy can look like a lot of things, probably things that you have done already, such as plant therapy and horticulture. There's actually certifications now in horticulture therapy. There's certifications in all of these almost, in animal assisted therapy, wilderness experiences. All these help facilitate those benefits of nature. So what has been done at the local to national levels in environmental education and ecotherapy? And on the national level, there really hasn't been like one big organization movement, but several others have kind of started and popped up. Europe is really leading a lot of this, especially in ecotherapy. But here around in like my neck of the woods, there's a lot going on that's really neat. And it's just, again, what angle they're taking with benefits of nature and mindfulness in nature. Berks County, if you've seen their Berks Nature, they have a prescription Berks Nature, which is really cool. You can sign up, and it's a lot about improving your health through nature. And they have a great website. You can sign up for free, and they give you some guidance about how long to be outdoors, what are the benefits, and how to safely do that. So you can check them out. Here at Stroud Center, I've brought this in a lot to camps, just doing reflections with students where we actually take more pauses. It's not so much guiding them through experiences, but letting them guide themselves this relationship. So we take a lot of pauses and have that, I call them nurtured by nature experiences. And that can look like a forest hike. Sometimes we've just been out. We have a stash of towels, and I have them circled up, and we do some stretches, focus on the breath, and just get them to really, these kids need to really learn how to handle their emotions. And I'm not a certified therapist, but I do know that breathwork works. I've had experience with it. And we're not here to heal or cure anybody, but just to provide them with the tools to help them to manage their emotions better and to also get into a nicer relationship with the planet. I'm also going to start leading these mindfulness hikes with one of our local state parks here, Marsh Creek State Park, coming up later this year. So things are opening. And again, teaching at Drexel University will be nice. In the state of Delaware, we had a really great experience with a National Fish and Wildlife Federation grant. And one of the school districts down there in Delaware has already established many outdoor learning stations at all of the schools, and they're taking it one step further. They're making more of these, but they're also bringing in mindfulness experiences. And so it's really neat. They have certain stations where they call mindful moments, whether it's a yoga bench and you can learn how to kind of just stretch. And so teachers aren't meant to know how to do all of this, but they're very basic. So anybody can do this. And just ways to take kind of like a pause, again, that unstructured time where kids can just follow their bodies and do what they need to do. Because we know movement is so important, and a lot of that's not happening when we're virtual, especially right now. Again, we've also been training teachers and giving them experiences outdoors, helping them feel safe in the outdoors to use some of these experiences. And the teachers down there, for the summer, they were to read this book, Vitamin N, and do some of these activities. And we guided them to do sound mapping and soundscapes where they can listen to the earth. And I'll talk about, again, how important that is, what that can do for you. But there's so many ways to connect with the earth. And I encourage you all just to find your own way. And again, if you're an educator, it's just really easy. It's probably like the back of your hand to be able to provide these experiences, but you want to make sure that you allow for pausing and those senses to be experienced and not moving too fast too often with kids. You might want to slow down with them, but there's a lot of things that you can do that are a list here. And we'll talk about the breath at the very end, because that's one simple thing that you can do. And you don't have to be trained in breath work to bring into your classes. But movement, according to Dr. Cheryl, I mean, children innately know they need to move, twist and turn, roll, turn. We all need to do that, or twirl, sorry. But these balancing activities activate the cells of the inner ear, which needs to happen. And so providing children with a variety of opportunities to move, whether hanging on bars or just like running for just a little bit or moving around, is really going to be good and activates their balancing, their kinesthetic sensory systems and all that good stuff. And she said, in fact, an analysis of 10 studies involving over 1,200 people of different ages and mental health status showed that green exercise, walking, gardening, cycling, biking, fishing, led to mental and physical health improvements, especially in the young and mentally ill. So try to get, kids out moving in a meaningful way, indoors or outdoors. They can't just sit all the time to learn. So they need some kind of motion and movement. And I created a YouTube station when I heard all this, called Nurtured by Nature. There are several other Nurtured by Natures, I just realized. And I call some of these pauses on the planet, and they're all at parks. And so I'm going to be doing a lot more of national parks, local parks, state parks, where we're out there and kind of guide you on just doing some kind of movement. So these are all usually like 6 or 7 minutes or less, and they're good little breaks that you can take. And we actually use some of those pauses on the planet with a field notebook, virtual field notebook that we created for 4th grade. They actually just did some stretches as part of their lessons. So wrapping up here, almost done, talking about sounds. There was a study, and this is really interesting, where they examined the health benefits of natural soundscapes and restorative acoustic environments in national parks across the US. And the results from this study really affirm that natural sounds, just listening like this creek behind me, or bird sounds, whatever you can in nature, cicadas were big this year, right? Listening to these sounds improve health, They increase positive effects on your health, lower stress and annoyance, and especially, let me show this graph, water sounds. Let me go back there. Sorry about that. That water sounds were at the top of the list. They had the largest mean effect size for health and positive effect outcomes. So bird sounds had the largest mean effect for stress and annoyance. So benefiting and mitigating that. And comparing natural sound to noise had the largest for health. So that was for bird noises and water noises. So if you can go birding or walking along a stream, these are really, really great things that you can just do to weave into your programs. So their results, show a resounding like positive effect for natural sounds. And this really is great for when you're advertising anything to try to bring people more out and conserving soundscapes. So as we move along here, got about 20 minutes, we can do some activities, but wanted just to give you also, this was about not mindfulness only in your EE programming, but mindfulness in your own life, and some just tips that I've learned along the way of having some really stressful stuff come into my life, and just how to relieve it, and to also create a life in which you can buffer yourself and be able to take on anything that might come your way. One of which is about taking what I call a pause, or my cat's pause, physically putting your hands on the planet and getting those negative ions onto your skin and just stopping. So I'll try to schedule myself on dates with the earth during the week, and I will take time to just relax, to not have my phone necessarily, or have it somewhere nearby, but I'm not looking at it, and really get into my heart and breathe, soak in the sun. Sometimes this can look like a break in the hammock, just looking at the sky, but you need some of those times to help you. And this unwinds any kind of negative patterns that you might be in. So say you may be in a stress mode, which many of us can get in. If you can really be aware of that stress and go away from it for just a couple of minutes and do something different. And nature is really good about helping you do the different. So again, maybe it's going to actually exercise and going outside, but you need to stop kind of that negative cycle or that emotion feeling of stress, so that it doesn't have that hard impact on your body. And as you get to do this more, you'll notice that you'll be able to take on more. What might be stressful might just be, you can just neutrally put it somewhere and be able to proceed with your life and be healthier in your body too, because the stress really does like hit us, right? The National Health Institute, in fact, said that 70% of disease is caused by stress. 70% of disease is caused by stress. So stress can be helpful, can be a motivator, but can be negative, especially on our hearts and our circulation. So a good not to let it consume you, but try to find patterns, and especially take a break with the earth, be helpful. And being actively present. And what does that mean? So all we have is just the now, really. We're not living in the past or the future. We're here in this moment, space, and time. So when I lead meditations, I have people actually come into the present moment, and a good thing to do is to focus on the breath, like we did at the very beginning of this presentation, where you just close your eyes if you can. You can either feel the pulse in your body, go to your wrist and kind of start feeling the thump of your heart, or put your hands on the center of your chest and feel your chest expand with each breath. It's really, really helpful to do this. And this is also a way to kind of do some resetting. And an attitude of gratitude. I've seen so many books written on just this idea of gratitude. And sometimes I make a list, or I will just think out a list if I'm getting into kind of a negative spiral of thoughts or something. I'll stop and pause and say, I am grateful for this. I'm appreciative of this. and it will start to actually reset you and refocus your attention. Start to really feel a shift of emotion in your body to kind of a lighter and brighter state is what I call it. So there's this thought of what you put out to the world actually grows. So when you put out a lot of appreciation for the things that are in and around you, and even if it's just for no reason, you can have gratitude for no reason. You can just be grateful. You'll see that will grow in your life. You'll see the spark of it come back into you, and your life will be more abundant. So I encourage you to try that out too. And just to know, when we get in alignment with ourselves, our true nature is what I call it, our essence, we can shift our lives for the better. But knowing that your natural state is well-being. And I've had Lyme disease off and on many, many times just from being out in the field. I went misdiagnosed the first time for over a decade. And it really wreaked havoc on my body. But when I kept focusing on, I'm not going to heal, or I tried so many different methods, Western, conventional, Eastern, non-traditional. And once I actually started focusing on the things that were healthy in my body, like my nose is still healthy, my eyes, my ears, my body got that message. And it started to actually heal itself faster. And I didn't need all those other therapies as much. And I still don't. So I've got a better thing going on now, putting out those affirmations that is my natural state, and that's the natural state of the earth. All right, the last but not least, I'd love to cover breathwork, because this is big in mindfulness when you hear about this, and meditation, and something that you can also bring into your own personal practice, and also along with EE programming. And there are so many ways to breathe. Breathwork has been studied for hundreds of years, and we've noted different forms of breathing and breathwork for thousands of years all over the world. And this practice is just focusing on your breath. And with your breathwork, it's so important to breathe through your nose. And I know this sounds kind of weird, but most people breathe through their mouth, whether you're exercising, whatever you're doing. A lot of people don't breathe through the nose. And there's actually something not called just sleep apnea, but computer and meeting apnea, where you hold your breath while you're typing a message, while you're emailing people, when you are watching a webinar. So just be mindful of that, because the benefits of nose breathing are incredible. And this is a free thing, something that you can actually control in your body. We can't control what our liver is necessarily doing, or our stomach, but we can control our breath. And this is so important. So many people have asthma and other nasal issues, and just lung issues. And many people have cleared themselves, healed themselves of these diseases just by changing their breathing through their mouth or their nose. So when you breathe through your nose, there are a lot of benefits. You're actually filtering better the air. Your mouth doesn't do that. And that's a kind of a no-brainer. You get better sleep because of these other things that I'll address. Your nose actually has a molecule in it that produces what's called nitric oxide. And this actually helps reduce inflammation. It also is antibacterial and viral, and is necessary for you to have. Your mouth doesn't produce this. So when you breathe, and you breathe super fast also, so we encourage you to breathe slower through your nose. If you breathe super fast, you're not able to let your body process this and to get this nitric oxide produced. And there's also, we need to have more, we need carbon dioxide. People feel that it's a waste product, but it's not. We need carbon dioxide in our bodies to help us process and assimilate the oxygen that's coming in. So it's good to slow down your breath when you can. And this has even been found to really help athletes enhance their performance, because they're breathing through their nose. There are tons of researchers across the world, MDs, psychologists, and even dentists now looking into the effects of nose breathing to improve the quality of life. Let me see if there's anything else. Anyone have anything that they wanted to share? But there's an interesting story that at ground zero from 9/11, people that were there were exposed to all kinds of like inhaling a lot of gunk at the site. And they had a lot of people got what was called ground glass syndrome. And they're having a lot of hard times breathing. But when when researchers changed the way that they breathe through the nose, increasing that nitric oxide to do the good things in your body and increase oxygen exchange, there was a significant benefit to clearing the lungs of those people at 9/11 on the ground. So again, breathing tones your lungs, opens your nasal cavity, and reduces blood pressure. So lots of good things. And you can just breathe in 5 seconds and out. You don't have to do anything too fancy when it comes to breathing, but incorporate that into your life. Let me see on time. I'd like for us just to do one last activity, and it's called Breathing from the Heart. And there is actually an institution out west in California called HeartMath. And they have a bunch of psychologists and researchers that have noticed that there is an incoherence in our connection of our brains and our hearts. And when you're out of coherence, then the functions of your body kind of suffer. So they realized through their research that and there's a lot of research beyond them too, that the heart really is the driver and the signal for all of your systems and organs to function properly. It's not necessarily our brains. And so when we can align the heart and the mind, and you do this by breathing and heart breathing, you can really help that coherence, that synergy to get back in order. So I'm going to invite you into a small little practice, and they actually sell devices to do this, but you don't necessarily need that. Really, it's just focusing in on your heart and your breath. So we're going to kind of end the way we started here, just a couple minutes. I invite you again to close your eyes if you can, and put your hands over the center of your heart. Sorry, I'm misspeaking a lot today. It's been a long day, but joyful. Put your hands over the center of your chest if you can. And again, close your eyes. And on the inhalation of your breath through the nose, I want you just to breathe in and just to say, I love you, Mother Earth. And as you breathe out, say, I love you, Mother Earth. And that's all you need to do. And let's just take a couple minutes to do that just on your own. Breathe in, say, I love you, Mother Earth, and out, I love you, Mother Earth. And you're breathing in through, you can kind of see Mother Earth in the center of your chest. If you can do that too, just visualize her there. But just keep it simple. And just breathe in again through your nose. And out. You can breathe out through your mouth is fine. And just repeat those phrases for the next minute here. Okay, so you can kind of just gently come back. Gently open your eyes, wiggle your hands. And thanks just so much for being here today. I know this is a different kind of presentation than the usual Congress presentations, but really, really, I think one of the most important movements going on now with all of us, you know, whether it's you personally having a deeper relationship with the planet that we come from, or it's going into your life's work to connect more people with nature in a more reverent way. And it can be, again, very, very simple with any of these techniques. And feel free to reach out to me anytime you may have questions, or check out my website. I do offer free meditations weekly, sometimes bi-weekly. And things are continuously to develop in a good way with mindfulness in nature. Very, very exciting movement. So I'll end with that, and I'll stop sharing my screen, I think. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tara. I'm afraid it's time to wrap up our session, but I want to thank Tara once again for taking the time to share her knowledge and expertise with us during this week of Watershed Congress presentations. And have a good afternoon.